everyone. Tonight, I'm about to share with you an experience that still gives me chills. Years after it happened. This isn't just another scary story. This is something I lived through. Something that changed me forever. If you think you can handle it, stay tuned, but be warned. After hearing this, you might find it hard to sleep tonight. When I was younger, my summers were spent in a secluded village with my grandparents. The village was quaint, quiet except for the stories. Every old-timer had a tale to tell about the Whispering House, an abandoned, decaying mansion at the edge of the woods. They said it was cursed, that those who dared to enter were never the same again. Of course, I didn't believe them. That is, until the night I decided to go inside. The day had been unusually overcast, and as night fell, a thick fog rolled in, swallowing the village in a blanket of gray. My friends, eager to prove our bravery, dared me to spend an hour inside the Whispering House. I was young, fearless, or so I thought. With a flashlight and a growing sense of dread, I set off alone. The house loomed in the distance, its silhouette twisted and unnatural against the dark sky. As I approached, the fog seemed to cling to the building, like it was alive. The moment I stepped onto the porch, the air grew colder, unnaturally cold. My breath turned to mist, and I could see my hands trembling as I pushed open the creaking door. Inside, the silence was suffocating. The darkness seemed to swallow the beam of my flashlight, making the shadows dance in a way that defied logic. The floorboards beneath me groaned, as though they were in pain, and the walls seemed to pulse, as if they were breathing. Every instinct told me to leave, but I forced myself to continue. As I moved deeper into the house, I felt an overwhelming sense of being watched, not by one pair of eyes, but by many hundreds, maybe thousands. The air grew thick with a sickly sweet smell, like rotting flowers mixed with something far more foul. Then I heard it a whisper, faint at first but growing louder with each step. It was a raspy, guttural sound, like someone choking on their own words. The voice was inhuman, but I could make out the words, "Get out." My heart pounded in my chest as I followed the voice to the base of the staircase. The whispering grew more frantic, more desperate, as if warning me. Against all better judgment, I began to climb. Each step was agonizing. The wood beneath my feet groaning louder than before, almost as if the house was alive and in pain. Halfway up, my flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into darkness. I stood frozen, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Then I heard it, a slow, dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the floor above me. My mind raced, trying to rationalize it, but deep down, I knew there was no logical explanation. As I reached the top of the stairs, the dragging stopped, replaced by a sound that still haunts me. The unmistakable scraping of nails on wood. It was coming from the room at the end of the hall, the door slightly ajar. The whispering began again, but this time it wasn't alone. There were other voices, hundreds of them, overlapping, screaming and crying. My blood ran cold as I realized they weren't coming from the room. They were coming from the walls, the floors, the ceiling. The house itself was alive, filled with the souls of those who had entered before me and never left. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move, as the door at the end of the hall slowly creaked open. Inside, the room was pitch black, but I could see something, a shape hunched and twisted, its eyes glowing faintly in the dark. It stared at me and I could feel its hatred, its hunger. The whispers turned into screams, filling my head, drowning out my thoughts. My body moved on its own, compelled by some unseen force, as I stepped closer to the door. Suddenly, the shape lunged at me faster than anything human. I felt icy fingers wrap around my throat, squeezing the life out of me. My vision blurred and I thought I was going to die right there. But then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The grip loosened, and I collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. The whisper subsided, and the shape retreated into the darkness. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I scrambled to my feet and bolted down the stairs, nearly tripping over myself in my desperation to escape. The house groaned in protest as I ran as if it was angry that I had gotten away. When I finally burst through the front door, the fog had lifted and the air was warm again. I didn't stop running until I reached my grandparents' house. I never told anyone what really happened that night, but I knew the truth. The Whispering House was no mere legend. It was a living entity, feeding on fear on the souls of those foolish enough to enter, and it almost claimed me as its next victim. That was my encounter with the Whispering House, a night that left me scared in more ways than one. If you're as shaken by this story as I am, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I have more stories to share, each one more terrifying than the last. But for now, take my advice. If you ever come across a place that feels wrong, trust your instincts. Some doors are better left unopened. Thanks for watching, and sleep well if you can.